Okay, I think it's telling me that it's live now, which is good. Now,
Ready?
it's been a while. I know, I think like 2 months, since my last episode. But yes, I am now back with Gab Hominem, and I'm finally coming back to talking to voice actors again. And this time I've got a very fun one who goes by, is it Jalen Askins or Askins?
Askins.
Askins, got it. Voice actor, you've done, you're mostly doing non-union work, it looks like?
Yes, so far, yeah.
This is going to be an interesting one because union has, a lot of people talk about union when it comes to voice acting, and it's got, from what I understand, a lot of ups and downs, so I think it'll be interesting to have a little bit of talk about that. But yes, right. Jalen Askins, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone who was watching. How you doing?
Who is watching or is probably watching after the fact. I do like to leave the videos up for anybody to come back to if they missed it or if it suits their time better, something like that.
Okay.
So let's dive into the usual thing that I like to ask my guests, which I like to kind of understand a little bit better who I'm talking to. So, like, where are you from? What kind of places have you been to that have kind of contributed to who you are today?
Well, let's see. I've been raised in Rancho Cucamonga, California. Went to school in Montclair, California. And I've been mostly there, those two places my whole life. Being around, family and my grandmother who put on a lot of animation when I was a kid. Hanna-Barbera cartoons. My dad, having me watch SpongeBob and Jimmy Neutron and Avatar: Last Airbender kind of influenced my love for animation. And it kind of shaped into the person I am today.
And so your enjoyment of all those animations and other things you were exposed to kind of led to you saying, I think I want to do voices for some of these.
Yeah, every time I tell the story, that sounds about right. I mean, I had it all started when I think with VHS tapes.
Oh.
We used to have VCR, and we had all the VHS tapes of the old Disney movies, the Renaissance movies.
Oh. And
because of that, because I'm a Disney fan and whatnot, I would watch the first movie I remember was Sword in the Stone. And, that was a movie my dad enjoyed. And then I had Lion King and all the other Disney movies. And as time grew on and, I ended up, just loving animation more and more as time grew on. And then I was also doing, imitations and impressions. And I think it was at 11 or 12, I finally realized I wanted to be a voice actor.
Sounds like it was pretty early enough for you to be able to get into school programs and such to kind of help with that.
Oh, yeah. But most definitely with art programs and then, going into drama when I was in 7th, 8th grade, it kind of manifested into, more passion for the craft.
Right. Did you have to deal with the stage fright at first? Tends to be the story.
Ooh, yes, I did. I had terrible stage fright. I could not stand in front of people and talk. Ooh. It was one of those things where this was a memory. When I was 4 years old, I was in a play. It was The Three Little Pigs. And I was fine before then. I said the lines perfectly fine. I didn't have any issue. But as soon as it was the night where we performed in front of the parents, I couldn't do it. I literally ran off of not really the stage, away from the parents and went straight into my parents' arms and cried.
Oh.
And that was, I just couldn't do it. And for a while, I just had terrible stage fright.
How long did it take you to get over that?
I'd say maybe middle school, high school, around that time. Because after a while, I learned after doing like speeches for like school and everything, it kind of helped me get over it. And the more and more I did it, because before I used to have butterflies, like everybody does when you have butterflies and your stomach feels like you're about to throw up. But as time grew on, that lessened and lessened, and I became more confident within my ability to speak in front of people.
So you managed to get over it by the time you hit middle school, and I think that's about the time you said you wanted to do voice acting.
Yes, I just didn't know the term of the career path I wanted to go. Because mind you, before that, I had other career paths that I don't know how I got to those ideas of career paths. At one point, I said I wanted to be a lawyer. Another time, I said I wanted to be a judge. Then I wanted to be a fireman. Even then I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I just said, you know what? Maybe voice acting is where I really want to be, because I don't want to be touching animals, and I definitely don't want to be in a courtroom.
Yeah, by the time I had hit middle, or I think I was in middle school myself when I decided I wanted to be a veterinarian. And even went through high school taking ag classes and all that. Even went through the Future Farmers of America program. And I finally hit community college. And,
right.
The counselor shows me the unit count that's needed to do a transfer to UC Davis, which tends to be like the premier school for medical things, including veterinarians. I look at the unit count and I go, I can't afford that.
The life of a college student.
Yeah,
I can agree with you on that one.
It was basically the BOG waiver, which is the government pays your tuition costs, but you still have to pay for the books and materials and all that. Which led to me having to like get a sort of a part-time job to be able to afford the 1 or 2 units a semester I needed to stay student status. And then eventually I decided I was gonna work towards being a mechanic, and that's mostly led to practical skills, in my personal life, but haven't really made a career out of it, mostly because it's just being a mechanic it can be a little difficult, let's say.
Okay. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, because it's a lot of understanding processes. You have to do certain things in certain ways, and especially with newer cars, you need specific tools that only the manufacturer makes.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's last time I worked at a dealership was, I think 4 years ago now.
Goodness, I'm glad I chose the world of animation to major in. Jesus.
I've always been sort of a manual labor kind of guy. I like to work with my hands. I like to actually be up and about and doing something. So it's the reason why I'm working in manufacturing right now.
Right.
But my desire to do voice acting only kicked off about I think it's about 2 years ago now, actually. Maybe a year and a half at the least. Because I somehow randomly found myself being a part of this other podcast group with the Insanimators, and we decided we're going to make a whole thing, promoting indie creators of all different kinds. And one of the other cast members kind of lets me know, hey, I'm doing this JoJo Golden Wind fan dub, and we're looking for somebody to do Mista Guido. You want to go for it? I'm like, you know what? I've got extra time, and I have a mic that I have, for the podcast, so why not?
Yeah, makes sense.
Never heard back from the guy that was trying to put that together, but I kind of enjoyed being in front of the mic, just reading lines in funny ways enough that...
At least you gave it a shot. That's all that matters.
I just found myself enjoying it, so I decided to pursue it from there.
Right. In this world, I feel like life is too short to not take risks, especially when it comes to what you like to do and what you love to do. Passion is a great thing to have, and it really keeps me going, along with just my love for voice acting. It really coincides, and it's a beautiful thing.
It's also opened up a lot of it's also led to a lot of friendships for me in the meantime, because
Right.
Part of me wanting to do voice acting led to me following other voice actors, of course.
Yes.
And two of them that I followed pretty early on in that stage was Crystal Laporte and Chris Ayers.
Okay.
And they actually, Chris had just had his double lung transplant at the time.
Right.
So, wanting to try to like do something, at least make a dent in his GoFundMe for it, because he had insurance and it was still freaking expensive. Go figure.
Of course.
So I decided I was going to try to do like a 24 consecutive hour stream to try to, get people to go for it. And they agreed to do an interview at some point just to, make another attempt at it. And that's talking with them is what spawned this show. So it was really interesting to talk with them and actually like learn about them and learn about, why they enjoy doing what they do. And both of them have a background that very much fits doing voice acting, theater, mostly theater. Between the two of them. So it was fun. And having talked with them, I realized I really enjoyed learning from people. And, it just kind of grew from there. And I've talked with quite a few different voice actors here with a lot of different experiences. And so,
most definitely, all voice actors. We all start at a particular spot, such as we don't know where to start, but as for like how we get there, it's all different backgrounds. Like I know friends that come from a theater background, did it for years, can act their butt off. Me, I didn't come from a theater background. I was just doing, as I said, just impressions, imitations, and then I started taking acting classes after I graduated high school. So I was doing voice acting classes, and then I took a principles of acting class in my college course, which was an online course. And it was interesting because I had to act my butt off on a Zoom call. So imagine just a thing full of screens, and I go like, "Okay, Jalen, all right, you ready? All right, let's do your monologue." And I would have to unmute and look at the camera and express myself. I go like, "My goodness, this is so weird." And and the thing is, like, even after my performance, I'm looking at all the comments. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm literally seeing comments about my performance on a Zoom call." And it was a lot different because when I did my voice acting classes down in Irvine for Del Mar Media Arts, that was in person. So I had to voice crack. I had to stand in front of my peers and sometimes producers or directors and speak into a mic and just perform. And there'd be times where sometimes I get cut off and it goes like, "All right, try it this way." And I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go." And then I think from taking the voice acting classes, it did help improve on my voice acting abilities.
It's having the chance to learn from others, especially when it comes to acting, is, at least from my experience, a pretty fun one, because the first acting class that I've ever had was with Jun Yoon, and that was kind of like a one-on-one, like, personal, like, instruction thing. And then sometime later, I got into a 6-week course with Reed Rudy down in Santa Monica, and that was like dead middle of the pandemic. So of course it was all by Zoom.
Right.
And, it was, like I say for a lot of things, it was very interesting to do so, but at the same time, you just kind of go like, I really hope this is not how it goes on a regular basis here.
Hope you don't sit there and work for a professional company and you're doing a Zoom call, which I have done that before. That was a fun experience as well. But I get what you mean. It's kind of something that, at first it's kind of jarring, but once you get into it, it becomes easier. And I think learning from other voice actors, like you said, it really is a blessing in disguise, because, you get to see voice acting or whatever you do in a different perspective from another's person's view. So then you're like, oh, I didn't think I could do it like this. Okay, let me try this. Oh, okay, that's a new way of doing vocal exercises. Oh, all right, they do this for their voice acting. Okay, maybe I could take a page out of their book and put that into my next performance.
That's always been one of the wildest things that I've seen about voice acting, is that there are so many unique ways to go about doing it, so many different methods.
Yes, there is.
And I found myself falling into that like trap of a mindset of, okay, I gotta do it just like they do if I want to be as good as they are. When you kind of go like, what works for them may not be what's right for you.
Right.
Is
yeah, everybody's different, and it just depends on the person. Yeah.
It's when I took up singing lessons with a good friend of mine. And,
yes.
I wasn't expecting to like come out being a freaking metal rock star like James Hetfield from Metallica or Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah.
It's I really, if it does that, cool, but being able to do like those heavy metal like screams and growls and everything, to me, is more tools to use towards it. And at the same time, it's kind of like I've also learned different ways of doing vocal warm-ups, which is it's interesting because it's like I'm pretty sure the way I've been doing it up until that point is what resulted in me like pulling a muscle in my neck like 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
It was painful, and I was in the middle of a freaking punk rock concert for it too, so I couldn't even.
No!
I wanted to get in the mosh pit, and by the time the main show was on, my neck was just hurting too much to be able to justify getting in there. No bueno.
No, it is not.
But still have fun.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm thinking I may not be doing those particular vocal warm-ups again for quite a while, if ever.
Okay. I mean, it's always a trial and error. Everything in voice acting is always a trial and error. Like you said, it may work for somebody else. Doesn't particularly mean it'll work for you.
How many iterations of like vocal warm-ups did you have to go through to find the one that's working best for you now?
Oh, I mean, the thing about it was, the only thing that I knew beforehand, because I was a band student, was probably breathing exercises. But the thing about it was, when I did singing lessons about a year ago, I was doing stuff like, my singing coach had me do vocal warm-ups, such as, along with the breathing, vocal exercise he would have me do every time we would meet through Zoom is, I don't know how to describe it, but the way he explained it was, you're saying the word zigga zigga zoo, and every time I did it, I would have to get increasingly faster. So it would start off with zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga 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 zoo. Zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga 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 zoo. Zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga zigga zoo, zigga 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 zoo. And we had to go up, and then he would have me then say ya ya ya. I would have to say the word ya, but I would be doing my scale, so I would have to start deep and go ya 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 ya. 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 And he would have me do that, and then we would get straight into the lesson. So then he said it doesn't just work for singing, it can also work for voice acting. So before I do anything regarding, whether it be an audition, or I'm doing something for a friend, or even for a project I'm in, I always do those exercises constantly and warm up so I can get that voice I want to do.
Sounds like it's the amount of progress it takes to get to that point. It's like the main like obstacle that I've noticed is like feeling, I guess, comfortable enough to want to like sound so freaking silly to yourself.
Yeah. Your worst critic can definitely be yourself, because you're always self-consciously thinking how that sounds to you. I think everyone goes through that at a given point in time, where every time they hear their voice, they're like cringing on the inside. Because they're like, oh God, what is that? But the thing about it is, as time goes on and as you progress through your VO journey, I really think that once you get more comfortable with your voice, you could be doing any type of voice, a gremlin, a clown. You'll feel comfortable, and you'll be comfortable enough to send that and feel confident in it. But yeah, of course, at the beginning, I wasn't clear on how my voice sounded. Like for me, I always thought my voice, every time I heard my voice, I was just like, oh God, why? No, I don't like that take. Let's do something else. And then when I showed it to, say, a friend, he goes like, what are you talking about? That sounds completely fine. I was like, it does? He goes like, yeah, you sound fine. What are you complaining about? I go like, I don't know. It just sounds weird. He goes like, yeah, because you're hearing yourself. You're not going to like hearing yourself until you're fully comfortable. Right. So, it's a matter of trial and error. It's a matter of, being confident in yourself and, taking time with yourself. You're not going to come out the gate sounding like James Earl Jones or, Jim Carrey or Jim Cummings. You're not going to come out the gate sounding like that, period. But you have your own sound. You have your own unique voice that no one else can copy. So you just got to give yourself time to grow into it and give yourself time to blossom into that wonderful voice that you'll bless the world with.
That's always been one of the fun ideas, or one of the fun conclusions I've been coming to, is not just with singing but with voice acting, is that you can listen to all these voice actors do their thing, whether they're people like Nolan North, who can get so much success not doing a damn thing with his voice, or people like my favorite Kellen Goff, who you hear him talk regularly, and he sounds like just as much of a dweebus as I do, but you hear him voice act, and you would never tell it's him. And but at the same time, you hear other voice actors going about and doing their thing, and sometimes you'll be able to tell it's them, other times not so much. But that's their tool set that they have. It's yours. The conclusion I've been coming to has basically been, what kind of fun can I have with what I have, rather than focusing on, trying to accomplish what they have.
Yeah.
The ideas can be, the more I think about it, the ideas can be endless with what you can do with
it can be, yes.
Specific to you is your own voice.
Yes, that's why most voice actors will tell you that your greatest asset, your greatest tool, is your natural speaking voice.
Yeah.
Because your natural speaking voice, you can literally, because it's your natural voice. It's you. You're not changing your voice or doing something. Now, yes, there'll be occasional time where you are, but for the most part, the base or foundation of any voice you do is your speaking voice, your natural speaking voice. And of course I've been casted for things where, I thought I didn't fit the character because, it was either my natural speaking voice, but a little bit higher. And they were like, this was perfect. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, the possibilities are endless. And, in this voice acting industry, it's always a thing of, don't try to be somebody else. Stick to who you are. Don't discourage yourself because, you heard a voice actor and they can do this deep, menacing voice. Or, of course, they can do this high-pitched type of voice that sounds like a younger kid. just look into your own tool set and think about what can you do specifically that no one else can copy off of you.
Right.
Yeah.
How long do you think it took you to really get to that point of understanding exactly that? Doing the most with your voice.
I feel like for me, with with the journey and everything, it took me. I mean, I'm still learning right now, but I'd say for me to be more comfortable with my voice, it took me some years to figure it out because, as a kid, growing up watching Kevin Michael Richardson, watching all these great voice actors growing up, you hear all these silly voices, but the thing about it is, at the end of the day, was they're comfortable with their tool set. They're comfortable with how they convey acting. And the thing about voice acting, above all else, no matter how many voices you can do, it's acting.
Right.
So for me, it was like, okay, I can do Mickey Mouse, I can do Mufasa, I can do this. But the thing about it is, can I be believable? Can I do that for an hour? Can I be comfortable enough to whereas in my own skill set that I feel, I can do things on my own without relying on impressions or imitations. Mm-hmm. And, anybody will tell you, in imitations and impressions, they can't, I don't think they'll get you really far, in my opinion. I feel like you have to come up with your own voices. It's good to take inspiration by all means, cool, but relying on someone else's performance, it's not going to further you in your skill set.
Definitely one of those things that it's like, what you kind of brought up something that it took years for you to you said to really get comfortable at that point, and I think that's one of the big obstacles people find themselves unable to get over is the amount of time that it takes to really not just feel comfortable with their voice, but also to really try to hone in on that skill of acting and being able to exercise your voice to be able to do more. Is the time investment that voice acting requires, basically.
Yeah, I completely agree. This business, this job, whatever you want to call it, it's a commitment. Above all else, it's a commitment. You have to be willing to put in the time to learn, to grow, to expand your horizons. Because you in this industry, the thing about it is you can't be stagnant and complacent. Because I feel like then at that point you're not really growing. You're doing the exact same thing over and over again, and after a while it gets stale. Yeah. But with with voice acting, there's always something new to learn. Like in voice acting, you can't just know just voice acting. You kind of have to learn about how to edit an audition, how far away to be from the mic, how to pronunciate, how to get out hissing sounds. There's so many complex things about it, and it's an amazing thing. It's just a matter of are you willing to put in the time, the effort, the dedication? Because this business has its ups and its downs. You're going to book things, you're not going to book things. You may go months without getting anything. You may go a year. No one can really predict their trajectory on how their career is going to go.
I feel that pretty personally. It's not so much that I have just not gotten responses on auditions as much as I just have not been doing auditions for I think over the past year. I think I've done maybe 5 or 6, which up to that point when I started in, I think it was mid 2020.
Yeah,
I was cranking them out 3-5 of them a day, or at least every other day, and then I don't want to say it's so much burnout because I do still enjoy doing it.
Yes.
But usually my issue has been coming home and either not having the energy for it or me telling myself, all right, I've got them lined up. I'm going to get to them. Just get in the house, you know, kind of like get a drink, cool off, or whatever it is, and I'll have it done, you know, like 2-3 of them within an hour. And
right.
by the time I walk through the garage door after I get my car in, it never enters my mind again.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I say, for me personally, I do it at a pace. Like, yeah, excuse me, that voice crack. Good Lord. With auditions, you don't need, in my honest opinion, you don't need to be doing them like every day. I'd say take it week by week. What can you achieve this week? Like, make small goals for yourself. And that's what I do. I go like, okay, I work Monday through Friday. I have this amount of time after work. Let me see if I can fit in maybe like 5 or maybe 4 auditions at least this week before the deadline is due. Let me see if I can get some stuff done for my projects. You know, it's each week, just pace yourself. Because, of course, if you do it every day, for one, you're using your voice a lot every day. And then on top of that, you're doing it to a point where, you know, you're going to burn yourself out. Or you're going to be really tired and you're just going to be like, I don't think I want to do it today. It's great to do it in moderation, not in excession. Because then at that point, you're exhausting yourself, you're exhausting your voice. And, you know, some of those auditions that you really want to put your best performance, your best foot forward, you may not be able to because of the fact that you've strained your voice for maybe an entire week. And that doesn't even include what type of auditions we're talking about. Because some auditions require you to scream or yell or shout. So then you're doing, now let's do that. If you're doing a week's worth of auditions, right? 5 every day. And let's say 2 or 3 of those auditions, you have to yell and shout. By the end of that week, your voice is probably going to be gone. You're going to have a sore throat. And then you're going to have to wait maybe a week or 2 before your voice recovers. So I always believe that, you know, if you do it in moderation, you know, yeah, you're working out, you're honing your craft, you're working out those vocal cords, and you're doing what you can in moderation. And you can put your best performance forward when you're doing it in moderation. But if you do it excession, you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna have burnout, you're gonna lose your voice, you're gonna end up not doing what you want to do, and you're going to feel bad afterwards because you're like, man, I wish I could have done this. You know.
Right. Is it safe to assume you've had to grapple with this same type of situation yourself in the past?
I would say yes. I did. Because, you know, before I think before I was told you have to send in an audition like more than one audition every day. I think I did have a coach that did say that at one point. and I remember they specifically said you would have to do it, don't do like 1 or 2, you have to do like more than that every day. And I was just like, okay. But, you know, as time went on, I realized that, you know, I'm a college student. For one, I go to college, I'm studying animation. I'm going to work. I have a social life. I have all that and then some. So it would make more sense for the balance to, you know, do it in moderation. Because, you know, it's about quality over quantity. Because you have to really be particular about what you're going to audition for. You have to figure out, what do you want? Do you want to do quantity and do 15 auditions per day? Or, you know, do it in moderation. Find good quality projects that you are passionate about, that you actually want to audition for.
Yeah, especially with the attrition rate that voice acting tends to come with. I think I remember somebody had told me that for a paid professional who does it regularly,
Mm-hmm.
a good acceptance rate for auditions would be somewhere around like 5 or 10% of all that they submit. So with that kind of like knowledge in mind, you start to go, if I have to send out a lot, what am I gonna have the most fun with and is not gonna kill me the fastest?
Most definitely. And that's why, like, if I ever do an audition where I have to shout or yell, I save it for last. I get all the other stuff that doesn't require me to yell, doesn't require me to shout, but use my speaking voice. And because of course the yelling is going to make my throat sore, and then when I try to speak, it sounds raspy, and it wouldn't be ideal. But yeah, there's definitely a ratio for a professional voice actor, how much they need to, the booking and the accepting. I myself, I haven't gone too much into it. I've heard much about it, but right now it's just more of a matter of, okay, what can I get done today? And if I get accepted, great, marvelous. That's another opportunity to put on my resume. If I don't, all right, cool. Move on to the next, and we continue on with our week.
I do start to wonder, with all that in mind, have you found yourself having to do any auditions like in studio for anyone, or is it all online?
From my experience, most of them have all been online. I've literally found most of my casting calls from Twitter, YouTube, referrals, stuff like that. And then there's my agency that refers stuff to me as well. So
right, that's definitely an angle I want to hit on, is having an agency, because when I took the class with Reed Rudy, one of those sessions involved bringing an agent from his agency, A3. They kind of like, they kind of went into the call with us and kind of explained how some things with agencies work, and sort of what to expect.
Right.
I think it's one of those things people don't really know much about when it comes to voice acting. So, like, what is it exactly that an agent does for you, the voice actor?
For me, an agent basically handles more of the money type situations. Like, because I know a lot of us voice actors, especially when we start beginning out, we don't know what our price is for our work. So we sit there and we don't know, and we're trying to figure out, well, if someone asks me, how much do you charge? I want to make sure it's suitable enough to whereas it's for how much work I'm doing, and it's not overcharging and it's not undercharging either. So with an agency, what will happen is you will audition. Let's say you audition for something big, right? And then basically the casting person or studio, they'll say, hey, I want blah 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 for this project that they audition for. Agency will say, okay, great. They start negotiating. They go like, okay, what's the amount of pay that they're getting paid for the work that they're doing? And of course, after that, they'll tell the talent that, okay, you're booked. This is what you're getting paid. I'm taking 10 to 15% once you get paid, and then you get the majority of it. They handle that. They also handle the other thing is agency also handles more stuff where they send you the bigger stuff. They like commercials and animations for big studios. They get that type of thing from the studios themselves. Now that doesn't mean that there haven't been exceptions to the rule where someone didn't have an agent and they got it. But for the most part, agencies do that kind of thing where they work out the money stuff for you, so you don't have to worry about it. They handle they send you auditions, so you're always, having stuff to do. so you're not always, idle.
Right.
And then, they represent you. They're for you. They represent you and what you're about. You let them know what you're looking for, what you're trying to do, what you want to achieve. They will do the best of their ability to make that a reality.
So a lot of it, having been through quite a few of them, it sounds a little similar to like working as an employee through a temp agency. It's at least just a little similar in my experience with them, because I've worked with a few of them. But it's, when it comes to an agency, it sounds like it's something that's more, I don't know, I think some people can find it having that viewpoint, that perspective of, making money doing what you love, not just doing a job, right?
Right.
So
if you have a passion for it and love for it, then it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah. And so with agencies, it kind of feels like the same, I guess, similar method, I should say, although it's more for something that people actually enjoy doing. And one thing that I've definitely noticed as I got more and more into voice acting, there's a lot of people doing voice acting.
But yes, this is a very competitive business. Yes, there's a lot of people doing voice acting. Yeah,
it does tend to be pretty competitive. Like, I've started doing a lot of them on like casting calls is where I started, or casting for the club, I should say. And I remember seeing some of those, like some projects of independent things or like fan animations using Halo or Steam Filmmaker or something like that. Now a lot of those are things that get I want to say 10, maybe 20, or even 30 auditions. But then you get into something that someone who's got like 100,000 followers, or maybe a project that's been growing a little bit on DeviantArt or Pinterest or whatever the hell it could be. Those kind of like bigger things come along, and especially when they say that they pay, you suddenly see those audition numbers skyrocket into like 600 auditions, 1,200 auditions on one character.
Yeah, I've definitely had my share of that. Yep.
Yeah, it threw me off a little bit, and I'm like, damn, that's, you know what, I may as well try and just say that I did it. And there's been some, I don't think I've gotten a roll off of anything that competitive so far. I've gotten a few, and it's mostly just been kind of like fun little projects. Like, one of my favorites has been for somebody's college audio dramas. And those have been fun to get into, but that kind of leads, like, it can be a very competitive field, but at the same time, it's also I call it the biggest little world that I've ever seen, because you may be finding all these voice actors you've never heard of, but then you start talking about them and asking them about what they think of this other guy, and suddenly you realize, wow, everybody knows each other here.
At some point or another voice actor meets another one. It's the VA community is a very supportive, very loving place, and it's also very, somebody knows somebody at one point. Like, you may not know them now, but at some point you're gonna talk to them at least. But yeah, this business, it definitely is competitive. There's so many different avenues of voice acting, more than just animation, commercial, narration. There's e-learning. There's stuff regarding there's stuff regarding stuff like video games. There's always something creative happening, no matter what. It could be rain or shine. Somebody has an idea that they want to create, and they will always need voices to tell that story. So as long as that happens, then voice acting will always be important, because we hear it all the time. We hear it on our radios, we hear it on TV, we hear it, in our movies, our video games, our TV shows. Voice acting is a very, valued thing. And I think with voice acting, it really helps people push their creativity and imagination.
Definitely one of the things I've come to appreciate the most, especially after spending the time I have with the Insanimators, so
Mhm.
many like different creative like visions, like new things to see and experience, and it you would think that every idea has already been practiced at this point in human history, but
Yeah.
I continue to get blown away by just how creative people can get with these many different ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It's definitely something that is great about the voice acting world. There's
Yeah.
always there's always something happening, and it brings a lot of people together because there's always stories to tell that have never been told before.
Yeah. Is that like one of the is that one of the driving factors that you're that pushes you towards doing animation?
Yes, the main thing about animation was I always enjoyed the fact that there were always these interesting stories that I never saw before. And, along with that, I also wanted to write my own stories.
Hmm.
So, while I'm pursuing my degree in animation, I'm also writing in the meantime, trying to, how do I construct an actual animated show that I want to make later down the line, while pursuing my voice acting career. Because voice acting and animation coincide with one another, and so does writing. So I figure I love telling stories. I'm Voice acting is considered being a storyteller. Animation is also a storyteller, and writing is a storyteller. They just do different things
Hmm.
in order to make it all come together. So, with the stories I want to tell, I definitely want people to, enjoy them, feel amazed, feel certain emotions about them. I definitely want to make stories that, have never been told before or have never been done. But at the end of the day, I want to do something where I can be proud of it at the end of the day.
Right. It's I really enjoy seeing that so many different voice actors take up like different um different hobbies is one way to put it, but
Mhm.
one thing that I usually see all the time is when you look at a voice actor's Twitter bio, right? You'll usually
Yeah.
see voice actor in there, but you'll also see things like instructor or artist or illustrator or possibly even like web designer or you know 3D modeler or something like that.
Right.
So many voice actors have like multiple avenues of creativity that they follow, and
Oh, yeah.
like I continue to want to like with so many of these amazingly creative things that come around,
Hmm.
you start to wonder like how am I going to keep up my creativity with these people? Like that's it kind of comes back to that comparing yourself to other people, other
Yeah.
voice actors type of thing is like how am I going to be able to keep up with this level of creativity or fun when this is all I can do? Which, again, it's like one of those pervasive mindsets to
Hmm.
have, especially as a creator.
Yeah. Comparing yourself to other people is going to constantly put you in a downward spiral
Mm.
because they're doing something for their creativity. If they can animate, great. If they can write, awesome. If they can draw, cool. The thing about it is, like I said before, you have to, not focus on what they're doing. Like, yeah, they're doing their thing, great. They figured how what they want to do and how they want to express themselves. You would have it for anybody else. It's trial and error. You have to go like, okay, what am I interested in? Yeah, I'm interested in voice acting, but what else am I interested in alongside with voice acting that can also be something that I could do at the same time? If you like to sing, take some singing lessons. Look at some videos where singers talk about their experiences. There's the beautiful thing about what we have now, that we live in a digital age, is that we can look up a lot of things. And with voice acting, I didn't know that there was all this other stuff like narration, commercial e-learning, working in medical, all that stuff. I didn't know until I looked it up and saw, oh, okay, so there's not just this, there's all of this. and there's audiobooks, and you can do that as well. There's a lot of things to do, and there's a lot of things to look up, and even with that creativity, figure out what your interests are. And then if you want to pursue that interest, see what you can do to get to that interest. Like I said, if you like drawing, try drawing pencil and paper, and try just sketching characters that you already know, that you've seen before. Try sketching those, and then from there, try to see if you can create your own character. There's people that draw OCs all the time. There's always something to. It's always a learning curve. You're always going to learn differently. You're always going to learn something. There's never a time where you're not learning.
Oh yeah, it's
so
like even with like you think whatever you do as your like primary job, you can find, you can possibly find another job doing something else, and suddenly you're having to deal with another learning curve, learning how to work with that job.
Oh yeah,
it's different now.
Most definitely. Like when I figured I wanted to start writing, I didn't realize that until a year ago. And that was because, I watched a cartoon like Troll Hunters. I watched Avatar: Last Airbender. I watched, stuff Kipo and the Wonder Beast. I watched those types of shows, and I was like, okay, I think I want to go into writing. So what I did was I grabbed my computer. I was looking up screenwriting apps for my computer, downloaded it, and I just started writing a story. And then from there, I started writing scripts for like animated shorts that I want to make. So, I mean, and then I took notes from other friends of mine who do write. And I was like, so how do you do this? They go like, well, you gotta do it like this. And then of course you gotta think about the story. You gotta think about the plot. What's the conflict? What's the resolution? Right. What are you trying to do with this story? What's the message you want to convey to your audience that you want them to understand? And that's the thing that happens in media all the time. What's the narrative? So when I did that, I was like, okay, I'm starting to understand it more. With animation, when I wanted to get animation, I always thought, man, I can't even really draw. But then when I started getting into it more, I was like, okay, so this is the base for it. This is how you make certain frames move. This is how you do all this. Okay, I'm starting to understand. And that's the beauty of learning.
It's why I enjoy talking with as many people as I do on this show. It's not just voice actors, but I've also talked with animators, writers, and Twitch streamers and YouTubers and all kinds of fun people, and it's the amount of different like ideas they've had about going about whatever it is they do. It kind of like jumbles new ideas of what you can apply to whatever it is you do. Like, one of the goofiest YouTubers that I watch is this guy. He goes by the Russian Badger. And a lot of what he does is like video games, like in shitpost mode, basically.
Okay.
He is incredibly funny. He makes some of the dumbest jokes, and he makes fun of he does make fun of himself in the process. But right. It's usually that like tongue-in-cheek type of making fun of himself, as well as his friends or a situation they just dealt with in a game.
Yeah.
And then I look at that and I'm like, this is a lot of fun to look at. And then I find myself, maybe not so much like directly replicating those same like situations that happen in his videos, but wanting that same energy that was going on in his videos, so it leads to other goofy and hilarious things that happens in voice calls with friends.
Yeah.
And with some people may decide to record some of those Discord calls and then edit out the obviously not gonna happen on YouTube type of things, but throw it on YouTube, and suddenly they've got people watching and enjoying it just because it's so freaking funny. And in other ways creative, which is, I think people gravitate towards that a little bit more when they decide to try to do their own thing.
Oh yeah.
as opposed to just latching on to something specific and then trying to ride that out.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of it all, we're creatives. We're creatives that want to, make other people happy, and we want to do things that we enjoy, we love, that we started loving when we were kids. Because the thing about voice acting is we're like kids in a sandbox. We're using our imagination to become these interesting, unique, complex characters that we're playing with. Maybe the dragon can sit there and destroy mountains and control time. In that regard, I feel like that's the greatest thing about us voice actors. We take words off of a page and make it a reality with just our voices, and we're able to change a whole, make you imagine, and tap into that imagination you've always had as a child, but now you're doing it as an adult.
Right.
And people love it.
The amount of ways that people try to go about doing something, they were like for example, Hazbin Hotel only has
Yes.
a pilot, and so many of the characters have sort of appeared for a few a moment in the entire thing, but never got a line because they were just background characters.
Yeah.
And then you find all these people doing comic dubs of some of these characters, and there are quite a few different ways that people will interpret their voices. Some of them, I interpret a couple of these characters' voices entirely different from the way some of these people have done so in their comic dubs.
Yeah.
I still enjoy listening to it, which is wild, especially when you consider how many people are adamant or zealous about their headcanon being the way it's supposed to be, or something like that.
Yeah, that does definitely happen. But whenever it comes to something that's headcanon in their head, they've already heard the voice, they've already locked it in. Someone else's interpretation will not appeal to them, and that's on them. Because there's always a different interpretation of a character that can happen. That's why I think that's probably the main reason why people do fan dubs and comic dubs. Because when they do it, they want to do their own interpretation. Now, of course, there will be, there's people who do it based on, they liked the scene and they want to give it their own flair, and that's okay. You're not putting it on your resume. You're not saying you're the official voice actor. You just did it because it was good old-fashioned fun and you were doing it for practice.
Right.
Because for me, I did fan dubs before I stopped doing fan dubs. And I literally did scenes from, media that I loved. I never said, oh yeah, I'm better than I never did that, because that's disingenuous. That's not true.
Right.
That person got paid and got their accolades to play that character. All I'm doing is practicing. And the day that someone does that, you're not being genuine.
Right.
You're copying someone else, and then you're taking it at face value and saying that you're better than them, when in all honesty, you're not.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things I've noticed is sort of a thing that happens. I've had the chance to talk with Sean Chiplock, and I asked him how he deals with people's criticisms, and I think he put it brilliantly in that, if people have some kind of suggestion to offer, he'll be more inclined to listen to it. Whereas everybody who's just giving him crap for his performance and just saying how terrible he is at it, he tends to just not even really block him, but just outright ignore him. He just doesn't even give it a second glance, which is...
Yeah.
I think about that and I go, I need to be able to like train myself to be able to do that a little more often.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's part of the learning curve, not because actual criticism is going to help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Negative criticism is just going to just be something where someone can't think of, even though it's good, they have to find something bad about it in order to criticize it.
Mm-hmm.
And those types of people, you definitely don't want in your circle. The ones who actually, listen and have good feedback and have good criticism that can help you grow moving forward, those are the types of people you need.
Yeah.
A person who's just going to say every performance, oh, this sucks. That's not going to help you any at all.
It definitely, it's like, you want to be able to put on performance that people enjoy. And it's one thing if, like, everybody is saying, wow, I don't really like hearing this, okay, you still gave it your shot. Because if it's just a few people who are saying this is terrible, well, okay.
Yeah.
What do you got to help me out with that then?
Yeah, you can't please everybody. There I can probably say that there's probably voice actors who have done voices that they enjoy and they did a great job on, and people were like, I'm not really feeling it. It's not something to beat yourself up over it, because you did a good job.
Right.
The director knows you did a good job. The cast knows you did a good job. The people who enjoy the film, the show, whatever you're involved in, if they enjoyed it, and you enjoyed it, then cool. A few people shouldn't discourage you from the performance you put on. A few people's opinion shouldn't change your outlook on it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things that I got out of Chris when I had the chance to talk to him. He told this story of a con he went to where somebody walked up to him at his booth and slapped him across the face.
Oh no!
Because they didn't like the way he had. I think it was a character he was playing in, like Black Butler or something like that.
Oh gee.
And it's funny because Crystal Laporte was his girlfriend, and she apparently chased the guy across the entire convention hall.
Jesus, that is dedication.
But yeah, like even knowing that even professionals aren't immune to, people with strong feelings about it, it's, I guess to my eyes, it's a little more comforting, even if it's a little upsetting that people will go to that extent for it.
Yeah, there's always, no matter in what field you're in, there's always people who take it too far. And that'll happen in life, and that's not even in career choice. That's just in life, period. Yeah. We live in a world where things get taken out of hand or get out of extreme, and that does happen. And even in voice acting, people are going to take it to the extreme and bash you for doing something that you enjoy. And at the end, some of them are haters because they're not doing what they want to do, but they want to bash on somebody that is.
Right.
But they think their opinion is more valuable than, say, someone who casted you.
Yeah.
Which is funny to me.
That's definitely been one of the funniest, like, counters I've seen to people doing that. Like, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the voice actress's name, but she's the one that played. I don't think it was Ellie, but I think her name was Abigail from The Last of Us 2.
Yes.
I can't remember her name, but she had gotten a lot of shit from the fans of the game because they didn't like her character and they didn't like how the whole thing ended. And somebody, I cannot remember for the life of me who, said, you guys got to remember, she was the one that got paid for that performance. That was what the director wanted, and that was what the writers wanted and all that. She did her job, and she apparently did a pretty good job in their eyes. So
yeah, that's another thing. We can't blame voice actors for the narrative of a story. They didn't write. We as voice actors did not write it. We just get paid for the performance. We didn't write the story. We didn't write how the character was going to act. We didn't do anything. We just did the performance. We did our best, And however the audience thinks about it, that's on them. That's not on the voice actor, because again, they're getting paid to do what they do, which is act.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't even just go into voice acting. That goes into acting alone. People will literally hate a person just because of a character they played in a TV show or in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, y'all do realize it's not how they are in person, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest things that kind of irks me is the I usually chalk it up to people forgetting the humanity in all these different entertainers that there are. Now that I usually put that in both ways, in that they're usually complete dickbags to these different entertainers for virtually no reason, but they're also like you look at the opposite end of the spectrum, and people will hold people up in very high regards,
Mm-hmm.
even though they're still just people going about their day.
Yeah, most definitely. At the end of the day, being an entertainer and being a creator, you're still a person. At the end of the day, you have feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you don't look at yourself and you go, "Wow, I'm less of a person than Jim Cummings because he's so much more popular than I am about this." No, I don't think that's your mindset about that at all.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be. It should be like, okay, that person has worked hard for years of their life to get where they're at, and they're still a human being. They still got to put their pants on one pants leg at a time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not these gods that just decide humanity. No, they're humans. They go to work. They come home. They eat dinner. They say hi to their kids or their family, their significant other, whatever. They like to hang out. They like to go to the beach. They like to be around human beings. They're not this entity that is separate from the rest of humanity.
Do you find yourself ever I guess being afraid of being in that type of position where people will either hold you up to too high of a regard, or will just hate you because you have gotten that successful?
I mean, there's a fear, yeah. At the end of it all, yeah, there is a fear, but it's not something that I'm really worried about. Like, when I get to that point, it doesn't matter how big I get. I'm not going to change my personality. I'm not going to change my demeanor. I'm not going to change how I do things. Whether you are poor, rich, wherever you come from, I'm not going to treat you any different just because of my position or my status.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I wasn't born I wasn't born and had all this success and fame. No, I was a person. I went through life and I got to a point where I got recognition for something that I like to do. So when I get to that point, it'll just be like when I ever go to a Comic-Con or anything like that. If I see somebody and they're happy to see me and they liked my performance, I'm gonna, talk to them because they came all this way to just speak to me.
Right.
And they took the time to look at my work and they enjoy my work. It would be wrong of me to sit there and, be disingenuous and not, act like and forget where I came from. I came from, I'm an audience member. I'm an audience member first.
Yeah.
I go to the movies. I watch Marvel. I watch DC. I pay bills. Like, it's not something where all of a sudden when you get this fame, this recognition, all of a sudden all of that fades. No, it's more of, once you get to that point, it's more of questioning yourself. How do I keep myself in check?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get a big ego. I don't go in there thinking I'm better than everybody else. Because if you go in with that mindset, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because at a certain point, no one's going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
No one will want to be around you. No one will like you. And that's not fun. That's not good. You don't want to be a person where someone goes like, "Oh, jeez, he's on the cast. Be careful. He's difficult. He likes the dressing room all to himself. He don't like to talk to nobody." Like and so whenever I think about, okay, what happens when I get to that point, I think about it as I reached another stage in my journey, but I will still remember where I came from and how much what I did to get there, and still treat people like they're human beings.
Mm-hmm. Has there been a lot of struggle with that, just even outside of voice acting? Just
What do you mean?
treating each other with treating. Well, I don't want to say that like you haven't treated others with respect, but has it been difficult to like really show the same at any point? Like, does it ever get to a point where somebody has shown you so much disrespect that you just cannot fathom the idea of them having your respect?
I've had people who disrespected me to the point where I don't want them in either my social circle. I don't want them in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's and even before voice acting, I did have people like that.
Right.
And it happens in our life, and it's a question of, do I want to really put up with it? Do I really want to put up with a person who is constantly disrespecting me, constantly putting me down, constantly, making me feel like questioning my self-worth, just because I want to, keep them around? I can respect someone and not want to talk to them, because I've had people who have disrespected me, and I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm not going to post about you. I'm not going to say anything like that. I'm just going to go about my day.
You don't hear a lot of people like talking about or exercising nowadays, because it's, especially with things like Twitter, people will feel that they need to call somebody out and say that they're a horrible person because they, I don't know, swap the ketchup in Chipotle bottles. I don't know.
Yeah, when it comes to that, there's some exceptions, such as if you're calling, like, for example, in the voice acting community, there's times where if someone is very unprofessional, or someone has said some terrible things to a voice actor, they post about it and say, be careful, block or unfollow, or don't even interact with this person. In that regard, I agree with that sentiment, because it's like, it's warning future voice actors, it's warning future creators, and it's warning future people who deal with that person that, this is what you're this is what you're getting into,
right,
when you work with this individual. But yeah, if it's something like petty, that's something that's not even like, oh, this person unfollowed me, blah 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 blah, then that's not. No, I don't believe in doing that, because it's just like, I mean, it happens all the time. Getting unfollowed, or, someone not answering your DM, that happens. But it's not something where you have to literally call someone out for.
Right.
And I don't do that, period. So I don't call people out on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. Even if you do me wrong, I'm not gonna call you out, unless you have a pattern to whereas you're doing it to not just me but other people that I know about.
Oh, yeah.
Or people that I don't know that have very good intentions, and you're using them to get clout or get recognition for your own self benefit. Then yeah, I'm going to say something. But beyond that, no, I'm not a very exposing person.
It's definitely one of those things that's like, it's hard to. I find myself having to question a lot of these things all the time, because, in one example, there's somebody who is pretty well known in the animation space, and there's, apparently from one person's point of view, a good friend of mine. Sorry, that train caught me off guard for a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I live next to a literal train, little train track. That's why.
I used to live right next to I used to live right next to an Amtrak line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know how it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, this friend of mine has this huge issue with this particular animator, because of the way that, you know, I hear a lot of these bad things that this animator's done from this person's point of view, but at the same time, I don't have that, you know, animator's point of view on how things have worked out. I'm not a part of those circles. I don't know what they're like, so my conclusions are kind of put on hold until I can learn more. And you know, in my position, I'm not really one to just barge into somebody else's personal life and social circles just to, you know, try to get the dirt on what's going on with this story with, you know, with this person having, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you, in other words, you want to come to your own conclusion.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, jump on a bandwagon and try to, you know, condemn someone that you don't even know like that.
Because I've jumped on those bandwagons before, and I find myself being entirely wrong about the person that we were going after. It's, you know, the same friend of mine that has this problem with the animator, I kind of like found myself on the same situation in regards to him. You know, it was, I was hearing about how he was being such a pain in the ass to somebody else that I was kind of around. And then when things start to come out more, I realize, wow, I've been had.
Yeah, that does sometimes happen where, you know, you have to really gauge, you know, what's the situation, what's going on. Because sometimes you can't always take someone's word for it. You can't. Sometimes you have to draw your own conclusions, and, you know, that does happen. And people will definitely be upset because they go like, oh, so you don't believe me? No, it's not that. I just want to understand what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know the person personally, and I'm just taking your word for it, then I'm not actually trying my best to figure out the situation. I'm just taking one person's word for it. Like they always say, there's one side, there's another side, and then there's the truth.
It's been a while since I've heard that statement.
Yeah, and the truth is always it's messy. It's never clear cut and dry. Not one side is in the right, completely in the right, and one side is completely in the wrong. Sometimes some things, one side does one thing to another and the other side does another thing to the other, and then when the truth comes out, it's like, oh, so you both equally did something bad to one another, but you just you made the narrative to whereas only one person did something wrong, and that's just human nature. Everybody does that. Like when you do something wrong, of course you're not going to admit with the part that you did wrong in the argument. You're not going to sit there and explain, well, what did you do to make that happen? But it just depends on the situation. It's very complex. It's never clear cut and dry.
A lot of things in life tend to be really complex. So like the same kind of like principle, I guess, can be applied to just about anything in entertainment. Whether it's voice acting or animation or writing, or directing, or whatever the hell it could be. Things aren't always as like easy or fun or simple as they seem when you watch them on, you know, the YouTubes or whatever.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's nothing in life is easy. It's always going to be a challenge. It's always going to be complex. It's always going to be a hurdle that you have to overcome in order to get where you want to be.
Right. Like even with voice acting, you know, we've already covered like how many auditions a person can send in before they get a role accepted. And it can vary very widely, but it's you know, one of the key things that I've kind of honed in on is how important is it to you that you continue to pursue this, knowing the chances of, you know, finding success in it.
I mean, for me, it's just like I'm willing to put in the work 100%. I'm not going to get discouraged because of one little thing. Whether like I've had times where I've been casted for things, and you know, there for example, there was with my agency. I auditioned for something. I auditioned for multiple roles. I didn't think I got it. So I just put it out of my mind, whatever. I get emailed a month later telling me that I got the gig. And I was just like, oh, okay. And even now, I'm casted in things that I love to do and I enjoy. So it's part of my journey to where as I go like, okay, I'm going to do things that, I'm going to get into a stage in my career and my VO journey where nothing's happening. Like at the beginning of this year, nothing was going on. And I was just like, I was watching, see friends have announcements and all that. I didn't have that. I was auditioning, but I didn't have it. So I was just like, okay. And that happens. You're going to have your ups and your downs. And I've come to learn that, I want to do this. And if I want to do this, I would put 100% of my effort in, and I'm not going to let, I'm not going to let self-doubt get to me and stop me from doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to let, negative criticism stop me. I'm not going to let someone else tell me that I'm not fit to be a voice actor. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Because if this is my true passion, if this is my true dream, if this is my mission, if this is my goal, then nothing's going to deter me away from going there. And, I took the classes. I've been doing auditions. I got a microphone. I upgraded to an XLR mic. I got an audio interface. I'm looking at other avenues of how I can, talk to, work in different, indie projects. I'm meeting creators through Instagram and Twitter and all this other stuff. So I'm setting the foundation for what I want to do.
Right.
And as long as I'm on the path I'm on, and as long as I'm doing what I'm doing, then I think I'm on a good track. The only way I could be on a bad track is if I let things outside of me stop me, and then I give up at the drop of a hat. If I wasn't passionate about this, I would have stopped a while back and did something else. But the fact that I go to work, I come home, I record, voice acting is on my mind all the time, and that I'm still doing it and finding new voices I didn't even know I could do, and making people laugh and making people enjoy themselves, and have people text me saying, I liked what you did here, and I go like, thank you. Then it proves to me that I'm doing what I love to do, even if it's not at the capacity of someone who's getting paid every single time. But I'm doing it in moderation. I'm doing it at a pace that is good for me.
I think it's definitely a very encouraging thing to hear. It's because a lot of people will be discouraged by the idea that, oh, I'm not getting, a role right out the gate. It's, it does take time and effort, but it's that time and effort made well worth it whenever you do get those roles, even if it's very far and few between.
Oh, most definitely. You're not going to book everything you audition for, and you're not going to get every role that you want. But if you keep auditioning and you keep working on yourself, you'll find that role that you either didn't think you were going to get or you really wanted, and you'll get it. There's voice actors in the industry that have gotten roles that they've always wanted, and when they get it, they're ecstatic about it, and they're in disbelief because they didn't think they would get it. That just shows that hard work does pay off.
I've definitely heard some of the stories, and it's definitely a very encouraging thing. Makes you smile, makes you wonder, how long would it take for me to get to that point? Well, sooner you start, the faster you'll get there.
Yeah, sometimes you can't even gauge when it'll happen. Right. Sometimes it'll just creep up on you when you least expect it.
Boy, have I had that before.
Yeah, I say I've gotten roles that I never thought I would get, And I did, and I'm doing them, and I'm just like, wow. It that's the beauty of voice acting. That's the beauty of being a creative, and that's the beauty of, you know, being in an industry that's so, you know, that's so great, so grand, so supportive and loving. It, it'll it'll definitely change someone's outlook after being in it.
Right.
It definitely will. And getting those roles is, and you have some under your belt, and like I've seen people get very excited just by having their visual reel done, seeing all the characters that they played all in one video, because that's the beautiful thing. I get to see all the characters that I voiced in a span of time and say that is me and be proud of it. I get to show my family members, oh yeah, I was involved in this. They hear me, they go like, that's you? They're like, yeah. They're like, boy, I didn't even know you could sound like that. I said, yeah, neither did I. and, you know, that's just the beauty of what we do.
It's got to be a very strong sense of accomplishment when you get to those, like, even if it doesn't happen all the time, whenever it does happen, you must feel like over the moon.
Most definitely. Like the other day, I had, it was yesterday, a series that I'm part of called Rad Mad Venture just released an animated OP. And I voice a character called Jack Ape. And that character, when I got to voice him, it was because the creator hit me up and asked me to audition for another character. And then he was like, I like you better I have another character in mind that I think that would better suit you. And he casted me as somebody else. And then I felt accomplished because when I was showing my friends, I said, oh yeah, this is the animated OP. They go like, this looks fire. I'm like, yeah, these are projects I'm proud to be a part of. You know, another project I'm in, the pilot releases this upcoming week. And when I show my classmates or I show my teachers or stuff like that, they go like, this is cool. I was like, yeah. And I get to say I was a part of it.
You know, it's got to be so fun when you have that chance to say so. But it's not like it's a feeling or an experience exclusive to you. It's a very, I guess, uplifting idea that anybody can have this same kind of experience, and you've, you know, again, made that effort to get to that point where you can do that. And
yeah,
you've got to. I can only imagine just how, honestly, just how good in general that it feels.
Yeah, and anybody can do it as long as they're willing to put in the work and time to do it. And if you're willing to learn and you're willing to find out what this business is all about, if you're willing to put in the work, then you know at the end of the day that you will be where you want to be.
Right. Jalen, you're a very, very encouraging man, and I'm very happy that I had the chance to talk with you today, because this was a very, very nice conversation to have.
Well, thank you. I'm honestly, I'm honored that you invited me on here, and you know, I just want to say to anybody who's listening, to anybody who's watching, you know, if you even feel discouraged a little bit, I'm going to tell you something. I was teased constantly for my voice. I'm not lying. I was teased constantly. And that led a little bit into my self-consciousness of my voice and everything in between. But the thing about it is, you have a unique voice at the end of it all. You do. Whether you accept it or not, you do. And no one else can have that voice but you. So, you know, if you want to become a voice actor, if you want to be a director, if you want to do film, you want to do cartoons, you want to do all that great stuff, you know, do it. Life is too short for you to not take a risk, and for you not to think about what you can do and limit yourself to just, you know, your insecurities. And we all have insecurities. No matter how successful, no matter how big of a pedestal You know, people may put us out to be, we have insecurities because we're human. And if we don't embrace those insecurities and we don't try to work on them and try to figure it out, then we're never going to progress. And y'all, and whoever you are, you'll definitely make it, because this business is big enough for enough people to come on in and show their talents, their voice, and make stories for future generations to enjoy and, you know, create their own little inspirations.
Couldn't agree with all of that more, even if I tried.
But you know, shout out to this man over here for inviting me on here, and you know, anybody else, you know, you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Jalen's Voices. So I'll always be on there, and if you ever have a question or you want to have a conversation, or even hey, you want to collab with some, or you got an idea, my DMs are always available.
You're a freaking amazing person, Jalen. I'm really happy you had the time to come and talk to me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's like I said, it's been a pleasure and an honor.
Likewise. I do have Jalen's Twitter at least, linked in the description of the video. I thought you had a YouTube channel as well.
Yes, I do. It's also Jalen's World of Voices. Yeah, I post song covers on there. I'm working on some audio skits, so be on the lookout for those. I also do comic dubs, so be on the lookout for those.
You can find his link tree in his Twitter bio. Again, the Twitter is linked in the description of the video. But yes, take a look at this video. Take a listen again if you want. If you feel you need to, share it with others so that they can hear this man's words of wisdom and just general encouragement and positivity. So thank you all for taking the time to listen. Thank you again, Jalen, for taking the time to join me. And
no worries.
Everybody have a wonderful weekend.